Madam President, Commissioners, good morning. It's now 11:30.
All right, thank you. Welcome everyone to our pre-commission meeting. We will start with any general housekeeping items, and just a reminder to the commissioners, this is when you have an opportunity to ask any questions or clarification on something other than the agenda.
Madam President, I just wanted
Henson?
to appreciate Commissioner Goldthorpe for raising the issue of that one traffic calming concern of a constituent he had, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, on Beach, and I would encourage my fellow commissioners to pick up a copy again of the draft rewrite. I think our problem lies in the policy that we have that hasn't changed. I think it needs to be overhauled so that issues like this can be addressed, and we can address the safety of these neighborhoods. So I would encourage you to do that. I got a great response from Commissioner Pickering, but not from the other three commissioners. So I think it's real important that over and over again we see the flaws of our current process are not addressing the modern needs of these neighborhoods that are facing speeding.
Thank you,
Madam President.
Oh, hello, Commissioner Pickering.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one quick question that's not about the agenda. Director Wong, I think about a month ago, we received that letter from the Ada County commissioners about an appointment. And I remember, distinctly, like we try to get back to our other partner agencies fairly quickly with a response when they have a formal letter like that. So, and I haven't seen anything, so I just wanted to check in with you and ask kind of what is the timeline with responding to the commission.
I believe you'll see that on next week's agenda.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions or comments? No? All right. Any concerns or questions about the agenda?
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. Goldthorpe.
On item number 2.
Recording in progress.
Item number 2 on the consent agenda, and this is probably something, since Scott is handling this, maybe he can help me understand better. When we look at the master licensing agreements, and this is a new fiber optic or 5G vendor that I don't know anything about, are they planning on doing anything other than 5G small cells?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I do not believe so. They are strictly the small cell 5G, building out a network for that.
Now, one other thing, I noticed that the fees that we are charging them are substantially less than the original fees that we had for Verizon. Has the Verizon fees changed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I thought they were going to, but thank you.
All right, thank you.
Madam President.
Okay. Oh, one sec, Commissioner Pickering. Mr. Price has something to add.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, but I do believe they're going to go beyond the small cell.
Do you? Okay, then what, how is this licensing agreement or the agreement protecting us and our constituents from the same stuff that we had to endure in Garden City?
Well, that wasn't small cell, but it was a fiber, and
right,
we've done that. We've bolstered up our permitting process, and that's how we've dealt with it. Through the license agreement, we also have more teeth in it.
I just didn't notice any of the teeth for the...
Oh, no, it's mostly through the permitting. One of the problems with this whole program, we've got Verizon and AT&T, and this agreement is substantially the same as we've done in the past, is that this area of law is regulated by the FCC, and it has basically crammed down provisions in it that requires local governments to allow these entities to put their facilities in the public right-of-way. It also limits the amount of time in which we can respond, and it also limits the amount of money that we can charge. And so I think we've got a handle, after we dealt with TDS in the past, I think we've got a handle on that. The one thing that we have not and we did attempt to do when we proposed an ordinance, was to, we're going to start seeing more of this going, the original proposal was to go into the downtown core with these. Well, now we're starting to see these providers, vendors, moving into residential areas, and we have concerns about that, just because of, I'm sure a lot of subdivisions, they're not going to co-locate on our existing traffic equipment in subdivisions, so they're going to be trying to put up freestanding devices, facilities within subdivisions. And that ordinance was intended to provide more authority for the local land use agencies to provide input before we would do that. And we never did adopt the ordinance. We've talked about bringing it back. But if you want more teeth, then that's the route to go.
Another last question, and it was just because of an article that I read on LinkedIn yesterday about the programs that are going on in Ammon and Idaho Falls regarding these very things with fiber optics. And they have basically put all the infrastructure in themselves and then allowing the vendors like these guys, Verizon and others, to utilize that infrastructure for a fee. Have we considered going that direction at all so that we could have a little more control over that, or has that Pandora's box already been opened?
Well, Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, you raise really a timely
I thought I did.
question. That's part of the Dig Once legislation
Yes.
that passed for ITD. And now the ITD is looking at regulations over the Dig Once policy, and we're watching that closely. That relates to broadband as well, and we are on, I believe, on our 10-mile project, we're doing a pilot program to put in conduit with future capacity to promote Dig Once. But when you look at the costs, and we've gone through that, for us, it's expensive, and for us to have that much capital sitting in the ground, potentially never used, it's one of those things that it's an onion and you start peeling down all the layers and it becomes very, very complicated. But we will be coming back to you once ITD has adopted these regulations, and we're going to be proposing to the commission a broadband ordinance, which will include all of the small cell, and it will basically supplant the license agreement that you're considering today. We're going to propose a comprehensive ordinance that addresses all of that broadband and small cell activity within the public right-of-way. And to the extent that we can find places to put in conduit or partner with partnering agencies, we'll be exploring that as well.
Have we taken a look at either of those two cities' programs?
No, we haven't, and that'll be part of our research, I can assure you. We're kind of sitting back because this is really coming at us like a fire hose. There's so much going on, but I can assure you that Scott and I are taking a hard look at it.
Thank you.
That's good to hear. I think the first time we took a swipe at that ordinance, I think there was some misinformation out there, but I was going to suggest that we revisit that and take another crack at that, because I think it'd benefit everybody.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
The proposed ordinance will go much wider in scope than the previous one.
Perfect. Anxious to get that going. Thank you. Commissioner Pickering had a question.
I'm sorry, Madam President, just as a follow-up for Commissioner Goldthorpe's comment there. One of the things we did learn working with TDS is that as the General Counsel said, in our permitting requirements, we have greatly reduced the amount of permits and area that each provider can work on and we don't offer them another one until they've successfully accomplished the goals and the requirements they've had in that permit. So again, with what we can do, that was one of the things that got everybody's attention very, very quickly.
And I think it made a difference.
Madam President.
Yeah.
Bruce?
Mr. Goldthorpe.
One of the things that just popped into my mind about that very thing, because of the permitting process and the different vendors coming in, not at the same time. Apparently elsewhere, and in a very general sense, but more often than not, one vendor will not put in infrastructure where another vendor already is. So there's an extreme lack of competition under the current system that exists almost nationwide. And one of the things that was a real positive for the way that Idaho Falls and Ammon was handling it was that their system absolutely stimulates competition, and the price for the internet services through fiber optics and others there has just absolutely tumbled. It's far, far less than what we pay here, just because of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, Commissioner Pickering.
Thanks,
Back
Madam
to
President. Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a question for Steve or Director Wong, but I just wanted some clarification on consent item number 6. Just what is I know it's the State Street, and I was reading through it, and it was just kind of like gobbledygook for me. And I just wanted just some clarification on, is it specific to specific projects, or like I read like the first 3 pages, and I'm like, I'm not getting the specifics that I feel like I need to understand what this agreement really is about.
Good question. I think we had some updates with the legislature and Steve.
Yep. Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, this is like previous agreements with urban renewal agencies that you've adopted in the past. A number of years ago and 2 years ago, the legislature has said that the tax increment that would normally go towards the urban renewal agency, we have to enter into an agreement if they're going to get that tax increment. And the agreement, what it does is it limits that increment to transportation components as defined in our cost share ordinance. So ACHD's tax increment, the idea is that that funding is dedicated for transportation projects within that urban renewal area. And I'm glad you think the first 3 pages is gobbledygook. But the good stuff, one thing we have negotiated hard with CCDC and Megan Conrad. She's been a delight to work with. What we did in this agreement is identified, with the help of Gary Unselman and Justin Lucas, identify the transportation projects within that State Street urban renewal area that would be eligible for the tax increment during the planned period, during that urban renewal period. So this is it's a great deal. There's some really exciting transportation components that are going to occur in that area, and this ensures that the property tax increment within that area is dedicated towards those projects.
Thank you, Steve. So it isn't anything different from what we've passed and agreed to in the past. It just has some updated language per the legislature, correct?
Well, it's the previous agreements were based upon what the legislature has done. The only difference in this agreement was to be very clear about what projects would be included during the planned period.
Okay. And so if and when CCDC starts to do new projects, we're going to have to write up new agreements with that, and like within the calendar year, like what does that kind of look like as they try to get more projects done before they end?
Sure. So if during the 20-year period, CCDC identifies new transportation projects, the agreement's clear that we would have to enter into a new agreement to dedicate the additional property tax increment towards those projects, and the agreement facilitates that.
So it wouldn't be an amended contract, it would be a completely new one.
It could be an addendum, it could be a supplemental. Okay. We'll just see. It would likely, to be honest with you, be an addendum to the existing agreement.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Madam President.
You bet. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. All right, Director Wong.
Thank you. Commissioners, again, good morning. A few items for review. First off, on your table, you'll see the latest impact fee report across the board. I'll draw your attention to the city of Star in their residential operations, and the city of Kuna and the city of Meridian, both huge investments in residential. And for Boise, you'll see they are still they're doing very well in commercial, but as is Meridian across the board. So again, for your review. I do have a few things for you, but first off, I do hope that all of you, like me, have recovered from the aerial combat operations in your respective neighborhoods over this last 4th of July and such. It was truly impressive and truly amazing and truly long and such. Anyway, Commissioners, just a few dates for your consideration. First off, today, your maintenance teams are hosting a safety stand down to focus on safe operations in all areas. Now, we do this to encourage the exchange of ideas, experiences, and to raise areas of concerns to achieve solutions. As always, it'll be a great success with the opportunity to sit down and learn from each other. July 10th, this Sunday, as I've shared with you before, is the 12th running, and I'm going to say that finally. It's been deferred. This will be the third deferment of the Idaho Patriot Thunder. You all have the official patches in front of you, and this all the dollars go to military charity families. Cake stands will go up at 11 o'clock from High Desert Harley-Davidson, and as I said, as you all know, all the funds go to Operation Warm Heart and the Idaho Garden Reserve Family Support Fund. And as just a note, when I was out at Mountain Home for the Honorary Commanders event last week, I will let you know that the wing is deploying again, as is members of the Guard and such going forward. So this truly helps when it comes down to supporting families for our military. On July 10th, July 18th, currently, we have scheduled the ACHD-ITD joint session. We're working that as we speak, but current topics that we've submitted to ITD was an ACHD 101, update on design for the Linder overpass, and update on ACHD projects supporting ITD's Highway 16 projects and such. So we'll keep you posted on that. July 26th is an all-staff.
Mr. Director, just a quick question on that,
Yes.
on that topic. Yeah, back when we were discussing our commitment to rebuild our new traffic control center, we talked about the possibility of reaching out to ITD and saying, since they help to pay for the operations, is there any way they can help to cover this huge capital cost that ACHD, the property taxpayers, are going to pick up? And I think you indicated that that would be a topic of discussion at our joint meeting. So I'd ask for some update and an indication on update on the commitment we've made to rebuilding multi-million-dollar traffic control center, traffic information center that we'll
Madam
be
President,
doing.
Commissioner Hanson, I believe what I said is I would raise that discussion with the current last and the current director. I don't know if I said I'd put this on the agenda, unless the commission says.
I'd like that on the agenda. I'd like us to talk about it because they're going to benefit. There's a significant portion of our traffic issues that we deal with are on state highways. They do provide some funds for operations, but this is a capital expenditure, a major capital expenditure.
I will defer to the commission on that.
Madam President.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Also, I won't be there because I'll be traveling that day, but I think I let everybody know that a few weeks ago. If we're going to be discussing Highway 16 with ITD, I think that it would be incumbent upon us to probe a little bit about the funding that we are supposed to receive to cover that. When it's coming, and any sideboards that there are that we're not aware of, and because as far as what we were told earlier, like within the last few months, we should probably have received that money, and we haven't.
Well, Commissioner, Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, great question as always, and comment. I believe what we've done is we've shared with you the current state that they are going through.
Well, you told us a little bit, and
Right.
I asked some questions, and really there wasn't much coming back, and I understand why, but I think it should be really open, candid, and I wish I was going to be at the meeting because I'd be happy to spare that.
Again, I'm more than happy to have that discussion with them and we'll see where that goes. And we have not received any information back yet from ITD as to what they'd like to share with all of you going forward. Final date for your calendars, Commissioners, December 10th. That's why it's ACG Christmas Party at the Knitting Factory in Boise. It should be a lot of fun. As you know, in June, ACHD had implemented a division initiative of the month. I would like to share how we did and what the initiatives are now for July. And so it's for communications. Stacy, would you show that video, please?
On the main computer so we can share TikTok.
As you know, we established ACHD's TikTok opportunity, and so is that available?
Wait. Hey! I said, wait.
Commissioners, that is the actual voice. It's our team member for all of your pedestrian crossings and such. We do all those here. As you may have seen on the slide, as of June, we now have 1,424 followers, 72,700 total likes, and we have 2 videos out. Now, I am speaking with our team. I think we can have some fun with this. I think that we can be a little creative, maybe put in a message on those push buttons after the individual says, wait, and did you know? Or maybe have different characters across Ada County doing those. Of course, our tremendous D&T team is looking into any type of ADA issues that may occur. But at the same token, I think we have an opportunity here. And so it's off and running, so now you own TikTok. In July—
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Just one quick comment and appreciation to our team and director for greenlighting that, because I just want to share for the rest of the commission. I don't know if any of you have TikTok accounts, but you know, TikTok is amazing for teaching people how to do tons of things. There's a ton of amazing others like street departments across the country that have TikTok accounts that really talk about and educate the public about transportation issues and how and why and where to use certain, you know, why this, you know, why a particular street segment works in this area or what have you. So I think this is an amazing, one of the many tools that we have. And I just love to see that we're keeping up with the times and trying to educate all of our populations on a variety of platforms, because that'll give us the greatest reach. So just want to say thanks for that.
Commissioner, thank you. In July, our communications team will be producing a best practice checklist for ACHD staff for presentations and communications to the public. It will include reminders such as introducing who they are, providing the history of the specific project that is being addressed, meeting them with empathy and energy, and avoiding technical terms and acronyms when possible. So this is another great initiative that we've gone for plans and projects. As you know, our June initiative was to distribute bike maps. Well, I'm proud to let you know that we distributed 5,797 bike maps to the community, 5,000 majority in English, however, many in Spanish, and such going forward. We delivered them to 15 libraries, 16 little free libraries, 29 bike shops, and 7 other locations such as city halls, chambers, that sort of thing. For July, we're going to establish a clear operational procedures and practices on laserfish. And such. It's a great initiative that our plans and projects team have come up with. For maintenance, in June, we established a new fleet procurement metrics to show current status of orders, deliveries, and expenditures. I'm sure you all understand how important that really is in today's time. In July, we will build a calculation tool to better predict when sweepers will be in each maintenance area based on real-time progress through the sweeping areas. July's milestone will be the best beta test for the public facing on our GIS map, which we hope to have out in fall. For development and technical services, for June, we reviewed our timelines for permit approval and with a 1 week or less goal. I am happy to let you know that permits in the queue are now down from 215 to 20, which is just a tremendous forward progress. In July, our D&T team will identify and scope stormwater projects for inclusion into the integrated 5-year work plan during the next update. By doing this, we believe that we can accelerate our basin revegetation, and will have significant impact on stormwater quality. We've not done this before, so that is a great initiative. For HR, in June, as we shared with you, we established the employee referral program. In July, we will finalize and establish the guard deployment support program that I shared with you earlier. For legal, in June, we established the protocols for an ACHD fee review. And then in July, as the General Counsel already shared with you, we will produce a draft broadband ordinance for all of your review going forward. We believe that our focus on the one initiative per month will continue to build success in all areas of ACHD. Start small, big things fall in line. I'd like to also know that recently we just completed our first social committee survey. I have it all right here. And what we learned, and such what we wanted to learn, is what our team members value in our social committee's operations, what is working, what is not working, gain more suggestions from the team members as to what they'd like to see, provide more tailored activities and events for ACHD. And I'll be sharing these insights with the entire group at our next all-staff meeting. And now I know one of your favorites, just a few metrics review for ACHD. Traffic signal in service rate remains at 99.99% with 22 signals out of service for 22.75 hours. ACHD's commuter ride, again, they did a tremendous job at the May in Motion operation. They hosted 490 passengers and have displaced 1.6 million tons of CO2 and 2.1 million vehicle miles year to date. ACHD has had no accidents or injuries for the month, and we have attained 83 hires year to date, which is the second highest hiring sequence in the last 10 years. And again, commissioners, thank you. We have filled 3,175 potholes since June 2021. We have issued 2,302 permits and 830 plan submittals year to date, while also issuing 200 fiber permits year to date. Our team has striped 485.3 lane miles and placed 5,600 RPMs year to date. And finally, some sad news from Hawaii. Former Hawaiian Chief Justice Ronald Moon, who led the state's highest court for more than 17 years and presided over a host of landmark decisions, died Monday at the age of 81. He was the first Korean American in the country to hold the role, and his colleagues called him a legal pioneer. He started a lot of new programs in Hawaii that are with us today, like drug court, mental health court, girls court, language access programs, so folks who don't have English as a first language were able to be heard and understood. Chief Justice Moon led the Supreme Court through some very pivotal moments in our history, commissioners, from same-sex marriage to Native Hawaiian rights. One of his favorite quotes was that I would like to share with you today was, "Public service is the rent one pays for occupying space on earth." He will be missed.
Thank you
So
for sharing that.
that's my report.
Thank you very much. So Commissioner Hanson, I just had a question for you. So you were proposing asking ITD to help with some of the funding?
If you recall, we have moved forward on, I think it's $30 million. I can't remember exactly what the overall cost of this new facility, which is sorely needed. And I asked about whether we had approached ITD about contributing some of the capital costs. The answer was no. And then I said, well, I would like us to discuss this because in fact, they have sources of funds that we don't. And if the entire cost of this new facility is covered by property taxes, that's less for us to do for other local. We help make the state highway systems within Ada County function because of our traffic center, and they are going to benefit tremendously by it. And so I think it just is appropriate if we ask them to help cover some of the operations, that we also ask them to help us cover the single largest capital expenditure we're doing in this area, but as far as I know, is the history of this agency, and that it was appropriate to discuss that. I think the property taxpayers who elect us would like to have that cost shared.
And I certainly think we
and
can
I'd
have
like
that,
us to do that.
have
I'd like
that discussion. I'm not sure the initial ask or topic should be done at our joint meeting. Perhaps staff can engage, and that was my understanding when it was first brought up, that there was going to be staff discussion, director to director, as kind of a preliminary. So
Well,
I would ask for that. Do any of the other commissioners have anything to?
I'm inclined to say that that's, it's probably better not to put that in this meeting. I think, for lack of a better word, we've kind of got bigger fish to fry in this particular venue. That, I mean, on the one hand, I feel like I kind of know what their answer is going to be in the first place. Yeah, you benefit us and we benefit you a lot too. So, you know, you pay for your stuff, we'll pay for our stuff. That's kind of my inclination. So I'm not sure that that's the right thing to put on the agenda for this meeting.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be the initial point to bring this up. So if you want to
Madam
have
President?
that discussion, director to director, and just kind of have some preliminary recon out there, I would like to see that. Commissioner Pickering?
I mean, has the agenda been finalized yet for that meeting?
Yeah, or we're working on it,
Yeah,
correct?
Madam
Yeah.
President, Commissioner Pickering, no, it has not. We
haven't sent it out
Yeah.
to anybody, no.
Well, I think, you know, I know, I would like to know when that's gonna get finalized, and it would be helpful to see what we have to discuss. And I mean, I have a lot of ideas, and I'm sure a lot of us all have ideas of what would be beneficial to have at that meeting. So, I mean, President May, I'm looking to you to see what, you know, you think is obviously the most pertinent, but I feel like in the spirit of.
Absolutely, it'll come out. It's the same protocol that we use with any other jurisdictions that we meet with. I just don't think perhaps it's appropriate to have that be the initial ask. Come have lunch with us, and it's kind of like asking them to pick up the tab. But we have a list of some items, and I'm not saying we don't have the discussion, Jim, Commissioner Hanson. I'm just saying I don't think that would be the appropriate launch for that topic, because we are talking about the Linda Road overpass. And I do want us to remember and have the long view that it's really precedent setting that we're getting that 36.5 for the impacts to our local system when Highway 16 is developed. And that really is precedent setting. And so, you know, once we have that, then, you know, you have that opportunity to go back in and ask when there are other state projects that are going to impact our system. But I just think we have several things on the agenda. So I would like to have a little bit of discussion between you and Director Stokes before that. You know, I just don't want to hit him cold out of the blue. And while you're here, we'd like you to also do this, and thank you for the 36.5, et cetera, so.
Well, Madam President, I think just for the sake of the conversation, I agree it shouldn't be the main point or what have you, but I feel like in the spirit of coming together and having that conversation, you know, I think this is one bit of lots of opportunities for ITD to be a good partner with us. And I think that just because I think we can gather around this one project and let that be the main course, but not, you know, I don't think we should have what's the word I'm looking for? A scarcity mindset of like, we got that funding, that's all we need. It's like, no, I think we can nudge them a little bit better to be honest about what we need from them. And
I'm not saying we don't have that discussion. I'm just saying I would like some preliminary discussions between the directors. So I think that's what I said. So I think there's a misunderstanding there. So I just don't want that to be the first time we bring up this topic.
Madam President, so first a clarification, I didn't ask that it be the principal discussion or that we lead with it.
And I didn't
simply
say that you
would
did.
like it to be, I think it'd be valuable information for the board, transportation board, to know how much ACHD supports ITD's operations. And in fact, we are projecting out, we are going to support that substantially with our capital expenditures into the future. They need to know that. I think it'd be a good time just to have some information. This is what our approved plan is. Look at how much ACHD supports ITD's operations in the county. And then leave open the question about what does that mean if we're, the taxpayers are providing that level of benefit. I think it's an appropriate thing to raise just simply as a presentation. I thought we got a great presentation from our staff on that. It would be good. It'd probably only take 10 minutes, but to say, look, this is what we're also planning. This is already in the works. I just think it's appropriate. Now, perhaps, you know, if we just defer discussion further on and board members don't know about that until much later, I think we're in a harder position.
Okay, just a point of clarification. I'm not saying defer it. I like to ask a question and have some feedback. So I don't want to have that be the first time we say, what would you think of? This is what we're planning, and have them say, oh, we'll get back to you. I would like to have the discussion prior to the joint meeting so that when the question comes up and we have the agenda item, they have something of substance to add to the discussion. So that is the reason I would like to have some preliminary discussion before we have the meeting. So
Madam President, if I
think that's what we'll do. Okay? All right,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
I understand completely.
Okay.
President, is this
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
with regards to the 36.5 million as well, or is that not even gonna be addressed?
Well, that's on the list.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. Yeah. And so we're all clear that I just want them to be aware so that they can perhaps have an opportunity to have an appropriate response when the subject comes up, rather than just say, okay, we'll get back to you, we'll have another meeting, etc. So, and just so everybody's clear. All right.
Madam President,
Time to go.
it's now 12:07.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you very much. First item we have is to adopt our agenda. Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Second item, consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be acted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. That takes us to our regular agenda. We just have one item on our regular agenda, the personal services agreement for website design with Granicus. And this is a request to ratify as requested by Commissioner Goldthorpe at our last meeting. And there you are. And Mr.
Commissioners, for the
Daigle
record,
will-
Paul Daigle, Chief of Staff. Staff has no presentation. Yeah, you received a presentation, so I'm here to stand for questions.
Okay,
Mr. Goldthorpe.
yes, Madam President. My questions will be a takeoff from what I mentioned when we had our presentation a week ago. And that is, I have absolutely no idea why we have a proposed expenditure of close to $400,000 for something that I can't figure out why we can't do internally. When we talked about having a little more disclosure on some things, a little more transparency, a little more creativity, a little more intuitive nature to our website, I don't know why we can't do that internally. We have some really talented staff. We don't need to be cutting edge and compete with the private sector. All we need to do is make people happy with how they engage us with our website. And so I don't think this is necessary at all, and that's the only thing I have to say.
Well, Commissioner, you're right. There are plenty of things that we get complaints about with the website. The most common thing is how hard it is to find things. People always complain there are too many clicks. The website was designed 5 years ago. We have a webmaster. She does a really good job at creating that website. But we don't know what we don't know. Bringing somebody in who's an expert, first of all, removes some of the external bias. Secondly, they're going to help us. They're going to design for us a system that reduces the amount of clicks, makes things a whole lot more transparent. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to bring us, for lack of a better word, into the 21st century. Right now, if I want to put something out on social media, we've got to put it out on social media on each platform. There's a lot of manual processes. With this new website design, there are some things that we can type in one time. It'll go to the different media platforms to include, let's say we have some work. It'll automatically ping cell phone towers so that as people are driving along, it'll say, hey, this road is blocked off, don't go there. It's going to bring us into the 21st century. It's going to cut down on some of our time and effort. It would take our entire staff over 2 years to do what these guys are going to do for us in 6 months. And that would include hiring 3 or 4 additional people who are more talented than the folks we have now, because these processes, we don't have this capability currently.
Okay, I've heard you and I understand what you've said. And if we need that additional time, talent and creativity in our own staff, why can't we send them for training?
Well, we could, but now, as I said, it's going to take if I send the staff for training, it'll take them away from their current jobs, and then they're going to have to focus on nothing but this new website for the next couple of years, to the detriment of all their other jobs. So I either need to bring 4 or 5 more people on, send them to training, and let those 4 or 5 people just work on this continuously, or I can assign, or you can hire these guys to do it. I do believe that if you look in the long run, this particular contract is no more expensive than some of the things we currently have. I mean, take, for example, our Microsoft contract. I mean, currently we're paying $145,000 a year for a cloud-based Microsoft contract. Boy, that was easy for me to say, a cloud-based Microsoft solution. I mean, Laserfish, we're paying over $80,000. Some of these, if you amortize over the years, you're correct. It's $360,000 over 5 years. But I mean, when you amortize it out, it's no more or less than we're currently paying. It's cheaper to do that than bring staff on board and train them up. And now that I've, and keep them on board. I mean, this is one of those, you're getting what you pay for. I can paint my car, but it's going to look like I painted my car.
Well, I think I have a little more confidence in our people than that. And I know that Microsoft and Laserfish are absolute necessities. They're not luxuries.
Well, I don't think the website's a luxury. It used to be back in the old days, people, companies invested an awful lot in their lobby. I mean, you walked in, this was the face of your organization. The lobby is the website. When people go to the website and they get frustrated, they start calling here, I can't find this, I can't find it. The lobby is the face of ACHT. So when people go to the website, things should be very easy to find. They should be right up front. Geez, I want to see, they shouldn't have to go through 16 clicks to say, oh, there's your budget. These are some of the things that this outfit is going to be able to do for us. Make things right up front, make things transparent. Like I said, fewer clicks. People will be a lot less frustrated trying to find data. We are continually being asked, and y'all know too, because you get those kinds of questions. Where's this? Where's that? And while it's easy for us to find because we use it on a daily basis, there are people out there that don't. They go to the website and it's confusing for them. I mean, we have to make the website ADA compatible. Excuse me, Diane's done a very good job of keeping up with that, but there are so many changes coming down the pike. It's nice to have a third party come in and say, hey, this is what you guys need to be thinking about. MEG's a good example. MEG were the go-to guys for ADA things out on our streets. So we brought them in. They said, hey, this is what you need to do. That's why we're going to bring Granicus in. They're the go-to guys when it comes to government entities. They're going to say, hey, this is what you really need to do. This is what you really need to think about. This is what's going to put you out there front and center for the next 5, 10, 15 years. We're not going to be on the leading edge. We're not even going to be on the bleeding edge. We're just going to be getting out there to a better extent than we are now. It's going to save us some time. It's going to save up some effort. For example, they're going to give us some keyword search things that are state of the art. So when people send in to tell us, I don't have to have a person up front reading every single tell going, geez, I think this one goes to engineering. Boom. This new system will be able to do that. This new system will be able to put things out there to the public ahead of time. Hey, we have a project going in this area. People can sign up to say anything that relates to the Boise bench, anything that relates to this area, I want to know about it. It'll front load that stuff out there so that people can be forewarned and forearmed. Might even save some phone calls to you folks to say, hey, how come I'm not hearing about this? So, it will really help the staff.
And the rebranding efforts are all.
Rebranding will be part of that. First of all, we have to get the website designed, and the rebrand is a follow-on to that. God knows, we haven't done rebranding, well, at least not in the 25, well, I shouldn't say I've been here 25, but it's been about 25 years since we've done any rebranding. But that'll be the follow-on contract. We have to get the website built first. We've got to get this website done, get it done right, so.
Madam President?
Commissioner McKinney.
Paul, let me just, for clarification, the agreement amount is $316,702, and that's, you say, spread over a 5-year period, is that correct?
That is for this fiscal year and the next fiscal year. The total contract over 5 years is $560,000.
Okay, so the $316,000 is just over 2 years?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the majority of trying to get everything up and running.
And then there's another 200,000 or so that will come on for the following 3 years.
That is correct, and that is for support, train people, answer questions, give us the support, just like we pay for support from Microsoft or some of the other vendors currently.
Okay.
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Thank you. Paul, you've done a great job explaining just why and how important this website redesign is, because I was going to say too, our website is our first impression for our residents. And I wanted to ask you, so it's been over 25 years since we did rebranding. Is that how long it's been?
I believe that is the case. I can double check it, but the last rebrand was done, I'm pretty sure it was 25 years ago, Tom? Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Logo change, but not the.
Logo change. We've never been branded, but we've been logoed.
Branded.
Okay, the logo was done about 25 years. And then how long ago was it since we did how long have we had our current website?
We did our current website update in 2015.
Okay, and I think that's a really good example as to why the rebranding, the logo, and the website all have to go together, because looking at our existing website and the fact that it's only 7 years old, it looks way older than that. It doesn't do a lot of those functions like you're mentioning, right? So much has changed. It doesn't mesh with the vision, the goals, and I think just the essence of what the agency is. So again, I think that's why it's really smart that we're going in once with all of these different pieces so that they all meld really well together. Because as I've been part of other branding efforts in the past, if you don't do it in one fell swoop, you kind of do this, hopscotch approach where you end up paying more over the long haul because it's piece by piece and it doesn't actually make sense and flow together. So, I think, yes, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I hear your concerns about, the cost, but it saves us money. It saves us staff time, as you've pointed out, Mr. Daigle. It saves us time. It saves our constituents time. It's going to save us money because we're not going to have to do this again for quite some time, because we're going to really try and hopefully bring on all the stakeholders to really get us a really great brand and solve a lot of these challenges that probably plagued us before the website was done 7 years ago. So I just think, it's many of our other consultants have talked about the importance of this website. And I think, in my view, it's really impossible to solve all the challenges that we really need to solve without that branding element and outside assistance from those consultants. So I think that this is, a great thing to do and much needed. And I'm just thankful for all of the staff's leadership in this.
I will lay it all at Shandy's feet. She's taken the bull by the horns and done a marvelous job.
And we did get a significant discount.
We did get an $80,000 discount. That is correct.
86.
So.
86,000.
Madam President?
Yes. Commissioner McKinney.
Just by way of comment, I think after discussing this is the type of item where it is difficult for us as commissioners to sit in our position and look at this information and to have a basis to countermand the conclusions of our staff on this thing, simply because we don't have more expertise in this area than they do. And so, and I think there's enough information here for us to say, yeah, this is something we probably should go forward with. I mean, I'm no expert in web design or website design or any of that, but I can see that training our people to do this sort of work, which is very specialized work, yeah, that would be, while doable, it would probably be at least as expensive, if not more expensive than hiring some experts to do it. So, you know, I worked for a number of years as a consulting engineer. That's why people hired us, because we had the expertise to do things that they didn't have. And so we're in that kind of a situation. I don't know that I have any information, or that any of us could have any information to say, yeah, no, staff, we shouldn't do this. So I think this is something where we got to defer to staff and say, okay, let's go forward.
Thank you. And Granicus, this is what they do. This is with the government agencies. So
Yeah, they specialize in government agencies.
So,
Okay, Commissioner Hanson.
Madam President, thank you. And Paul, and this is for Steve as well. It's the same question I asked when we had the work session. And I think it's very important to be on the record that, that we can legally go ahead and move forward with this outside of our competitive bidding process because of the specifications. It would be helpful if Mr. Price could clarify that.
Sir, you don't want my legal opinion? I'm crushed.
Because you know, this is not something brand new. There are government agencies or private agencies who are bidding on and offering to do these things all over the place. And so I just want to make sure that that this is clear. And I assume, it didn't jump out at me, I assume there's a non-appropriation clause in the contract, because obviously we can't, even though the expectation is there'll be additional funds, $200 and some thousand in future, we can't obligate the tax dollars beyond the current fiscal year or the next fiscal year.
Mr. Price.
Madam President, Commissioner Henson, you raise all very good issues. We've looked at it, and under the local government procurement statute, there's an exception for personal services. There's professional services, which are engineers, architects, appraisers, and the like, and then there's personal service. And that's when somebody has a specialized skill and training in a particular area. That could be lawyers, it could be accountants, it can be web designers. In much of our software, we go through a personal service agreement. Same thing with employee surveys, which you'll hear about. Those agreements are typically done under a personal service arrangement. Having said that, we still, our staff, before they do that, they're required to go out and do some due diligence about costs. And in this instance, this particular vendor is specialized uniquely in government. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be the only one. This is not a sole source contract. They just have to be specialized in skill and training in a particular area. And we feel that this applies. And yes, the contract, of course, has a non-appropriation clause based upon future obligations.
Thank you.
Questions well taken. Thank you.
On the record. Very good.
Thank you. And Mr. Daigle, I appreciate this. I am of the mind, just as Mr. McKinney is, that we don't have the level of expertise, although I do appreciate Commissioner Goldthorpe's comments, because he and I were both on the commission when we went through this and spent a considerable amount of time and effort and resources overhauling the website. It seems like it was yesterday, but I guess 7 years ago is yesterday to those of us of our age, Commissioner Goldthorpe's age and mine. But the other thing is, I think it's really important.
Paul's almost as old as I am now, so.
I think it's very important too that not only do we have the sophisticated tools that are necessary in the marketplace, but we also communicate what we can and can't do. And one thing I would really hope Shandy and her team helps to communicate as the growth is happening, at exponential levels in the Treasure Valley, is that we can only do so much as managing the right-of-way, a transportation agency, and that much of the congestion that people feel is because of the development patterns that the land use agencies do. We have, with these better tools, we can better communicate the whole notion of connectivity. That there's dense areas of our community that don't have the kind of congestion that less dense areas, largely because of connectivity. And so helping people understand, okay, I understand that's why I'm seeing congestion here, but I'm not seeing it here. And the whole notion of induced demand, you know, if you insist that we keep widening a particular area, that just induces more demand. It's a very expensive way of addressing something that may not be addressed. So those kinds of concepts which we know about, our experts on our planning and engineering teams know about, is the ability to then communicate those in normal person terms, language that people understand what this agency can and can't do about the things that concern them about transportation in our agency. So I appreciate that we at least have these substantive tools. Now I'd like to see more of those modernized concepts of transportation being communicated out.
Understand, sir. We'll make sure communication fully
And I
understands
think
as
we're
well.
taking care of that, absolutely. And our team's done a great job. You
Thank
know,
you.
over the last few years, they've tried to update and we've made it more user-friendly, et cetera. But with the growth we've had, this is the time. I think this is the perfect time to move forward and get these tools. So thank you very much. Any further questions? Commissioner
Madam
Pickering?
President.
Yeah, I knew you probably.
Just-
Go ahead.
Just one other comment. I do want to just state for the record that a lot of our municipalities in Ada County either have recently redone their websites or are going to be doing it. And so, you know, I think again, we're probably right square in the middle of redoing this, which is really important. And I've just noticed too, just as a side note, you know, the part of the branding piece that I'm also looking forward to is, you know, having a template for our PowerPoint presentations, having all these things that just elevate the professionalism of our agency, because when we compare it to what other agencies have been doing for quite some time, it looks very different. So again, side note, but thank you, Madam President, for letting me make that, making that note.
Yeah, lots of good reasons. Thank you.
There's also a cool feature that they tell me you click this button and you can pick the language you want it to translate
Oh
to.
yeah,
So
forgot about that
you
one.
know.
Any language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, commissioners, any other questions? No? Then this is before you.
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I move that we approve item number 1 on the regular agenda, the personal services agreement for website design with Granicus.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, Madam President,
Goldthorpe.
I would like to make it formally known that my vote will be to abstain.
All right, thank you very much. So noted. All right, hearing no other discussion, I will go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? One abstention. All right, thank you very much. Next item, public communications. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to address the commission? Ms. Spencer, nobody on Zoom? No? All right. All right, then we will go ahead and adjourn and we will take a 5-minute break and then we will reconvene right here for our work sessions. Thank you. All right. So we'll send, cool. right, there I am. There's the light. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start our work session off this afternoon on Workspace Mobility Grant Program update from Tessa Greger. And I just want to say what a great job that you and your team did for the May in Motion. I really enjoyed it, and you had a great turnout, and it was just really special to get everybody back in the same room. And so kudos to you and your team again.
Oh, thank you so much. No, pass that along to the team.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, well, President May, Commissioners, my name is Tessa Greger, and I manage the ACHD Commuter Ride Program. I'm pleased to be here today to provide an update on the Workspace Mobility Grant Program. Today, I'll share a brief overview of the background of the program. I'll talk about what we did last year with the first round of the implementation of the grant program, and then I'll give an update on where we are at this point with the second round of the grant program.
Perfect.
So big picture, the Workspace Mobility Grant Program is seeking and providing small business grants of up to $3,000 to support organizations in Ada County with implementing transportation and mobility improvements to support commuters as well as customers with their commute options. We launched this program last year with initial funding from ACHD as well as Commuter Ride, and we were able to secure a grant of $35,000 through AARP as part of their Community Challenge program to really increase the amount of funding that we had available to then offer those grants to additional organizations last year as the first round of the program. Currently, we are in the second round of the grant program, and we were able to do this second round with support from the city of Boise. So we received $20,000 from the city to move this forward, and we continue it in future years. At this point, we've brought in $55,000 in revenue to support the program, which has allowed Commuter Ride and ACHD to be able to offer this grant program with minimal financial investment on the part of ACHD and Commuter Ride outside of staff time. So we're pretty excited about that. And like I said, we hope to continue that financial support from other partners moving forward. So to take a step back, when we developed this program last year, we saw several opportunities associated with it that would ultimately help us in achieving our mission of reducing vehicle miles traveled from the roadway, as well as providing and supporting commute options for people throughout the Treasure Valley. And we still see those opportunities relevant today as we're in a year into the program. The program aligns with Commuter Ride's work to support businesses in developing and implementing commute programs, which we know are helping encourage people to get to work by other modes of transportation, whether it's biking or transit or taking the bus, vanpooling, carpooling. If you don't have a place to safely park your bike at your destination or at your workplace, there's a very good chance that you're not going to make that trip by bike, and that's one of the components of this. We also saw an opportunity to support businesses, especially smaller organizations or organizations with greater resource constraints as we were going through the pandemic, and more specifically to support their employees with providing affordable transportation options as they were coming back to the office, and to help them in establishing or reestablishing different commute patterns or commute trends. And then finally, we really see this as an opportunity for us to not only connect with new businesses, but as a foot in the door strategy. So an opportunity to provide upfront financial assistance, but then really to foster that longer term commute program development and implementation. And we've seen that borne out through the work that we've done so far. So the program goals that we established for the program are outlined here, including increasing commute options, increasing participation in Commuter Ride programs, providing support for businesses, especially smaller organizations, and then, as I mentioned, developing an ongoing grant program that we could secure additional partners and fiscal partners moving forward. So at this point, I can't say exactly what the percentage increase is or has been in terms of people using alternative transportation as a result of the project, but what we can say is that the projects have positively influenced people's use of commute options, and we're hearing that through the feedback and the evaluation that we've done so far with the program. We've also been able to directly and indirectly reach hundreds of people, whether through education, through the projects themselves, through the commute surveys that we've done, or just general awareness as we're promoting the program about what this is all about and why we're doing it, and that's getting out to businesses and community members as well. So we did establish eligibility requirements for businesses to apply. Specifically, businesses needed to be official businesses located in Ada County with a physical address. The first round, we had a threshold of 100 employees for the size of that business. The second round, we have increased that to 200 employees, which we still feel is falling under the small business, smaller organization category, but allowing us to open the door to potentially additional organizations and reach more people as a result of the projects. And then I've listed some of the applicable expenses or projects that we were looking for as we set out the applications, the call for applications. So everything from bike parking, carpool parking signage, lockers, places for people to be able to store their stuff when they get to work, employee bike share bikes, van pool passes, and transit passes are some examples of those. So 2021, we ended up providing grants of up to $3,000 to 16 organizations. We had 39 organizations apply last year, and we awarded 18 grants. 16 of those organizations moved forward through the program. And again, we received $35,000 from AARP to support that. Ultimately, we expended about $40,000 for that first round. This is a list of the 2021 grant recipients. We had a great group of organizations last year, and this includes several nonprofits, organizations that are providing a variety of public programming, retail establishments, consulting firms, health-oriented businesses, and then several organizations that are providing services to support low-income or at-risk populations. And each of these organizations had unique projects that we were excited about. I won't talk about all of them, but I will showcase a few examples. So the types of projects that we ultimately supported with the funding included everything that's listed here, but transit passes, day passes, as well as annual passes for employees, bike lockers, bike fix-it stands. We had a number of bike share bikes that were purchased to support employees with making trips at the workplace throughout the day, and then lockers and storage, as well as break room amenities. And then in addition, as I mentioned earlier, we were really looking at how we could not just provide the financial assistance or pay for a bike rack, but really support the organizations with developing a comprehensive commute program. And so to that end, we had at least 2 meetings with each of the organizations, and we had a kickoff meeting and then a wrap-up meeting where we talked about not only the details of the grant, but other ways that Commuter Ride and other agencies could support their business, whether it was providing education opportunities, which we did end up having a number of workshops, as well as virtual presentations to support the education on commute options, bike safety, things like that with the organizations. And then we also conducted commute surveys with 12 of the organizations. And what this allowed us to do was not only collect good data, but to help develop a set of recommendations for each of those organizations. And so we prepared summary reports and then met with the organizations to talk about ways in which that organization, if they were interested in moving forward with different types of improvements to support their employees, here's what we're hearing from those surveys from their employees. So that was another beneficial strategy for us to be able to provide that more comprehensive support.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Thanks, Madam President. Tessa, could you go back one slide? So with the survey, are you doing that, is that like pre or post implementing the grant deliverables, I should say?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, great question. The surveys were conducted, we did 2 different surveys. So the survey that I shared the photo of, so this was a pre-survey, and that was administered to the employees of each of the organizations. We initially had planned to do this same survey as a follow-up. However, in the end, we decided, just due to not wanting to overwhelm the organizations and what we felt would be most appropriate for the evaluation of the program at this point, we ended up doing a follow-up survey just with our commute coordinator or our point of contact at that organization that we've worked with through the grant program. And we asked questions related to how has this impacted your organization? Are you seeing more people smart commuting or using alternative forms of transportation as a result of this project? What other things would you recommend for moving forward with the grant program? So that's in the end how we ended up doing the pre and post survey.
And then, so thank you for that. And so since this is a pre, survey, how often are you seeing these respective agencies looking into and adopting these recommended strategies?
Yeah, great question. So I think time will tell. We will continue to engage with these organizations. We have asked if there's other things that we can do to support them, and we have heard from some of the organizations that they would like to provide additional educational workshops and other things to that end. But as far as all of the recommended strategies that we had for each organization with these summary reports, I would say that most of them have not pursued those, but it has given them information that when the time is right, if they have the funding and if they want to move forward with other improvements, they have that information based on what their employees had shared in the survey. We did have a meeting with one of the organizations to talk about ways to implement transportation benefits for their organization, and that was something that came out of this program. So we are seeing a variety of different impacts associated with it beyond just the impact of the project itself.
I think that's really smart, Tessa, because it's really important to meet the agencies where they're at and, let them, be the drivers of that other, change that's beyond the scope of the grant. But I think you listing those strategies and naming them is really powerful, and they can continue to see that Commuter Ride and ACHD is a really great partner in going beyond this grant when they're ready.
Thank you. So, and then in the end, we had stickers printed, which we provided to each of the organizations to affix to the different projects that were purchased with the grant funding. We also fabricated, you can see the plaques in the top photo there, and those we made at one of the grant recipients at their location. It's if you've been to Unbound, which is part of the Meridian Library District Foundation, it's a great public resource. They have software and technology tools, 3D printers, all sorts of great things that are open to the public. So we were able to make those awards with that grant recipient, which was a neat aspect of this. So just to highlight a handful of project snapshots and what they said as a testimonial of the impacts of the projects. So we worked with Catch, and they purchased employee bike share bikes, indoor bike storage hooks, a Boise Bicycle Project business membership, which is allowing their staff to be able to access those resources and learn how to maintain their bikes. And then we hosted 2 educational workshops, one on commute options as well as another one on bike safety with Treasure Valley Cycling Alliance. And what they said is that over the first 3 months of this project, 25% of our staff acquired a new bicycle, and 32% of our staff have used their bicycle for transportation at work. 90% of Catch staff have attended at least one educational opportunity on alternative methods of transportation, and 29% of staff have used one of the 2 bike share bikes made available at our office by Commuter Ride Support. So this is the Commons Climbing Gym, which is located on the bench. They purchased a bike fix-it station or a bike repair station, very similar to the one we have out front of ACHD now. And this is now open to not just the employees of the Commons Climbing Gym, members of the gym. It's also open to the general public, and that will be on the bike map moving forward. I believe it's one of the only bike fix-it stations in that vicinity on the bench, so we were pretty excited about that. The impact that they shared is that employees are more confident biking to work because they have a place to fix their bikes up if they need to, and they're seeing more employees bike to work. And then the Idaho Botanical Gardens, they purchased 3 employee bike share bikes, and these were purchased at Boise Bicycle Project. They also purchased a bike repair station, again, for staff, but also for the general public, which is a great location for a repair stand. They said that staff is commuting to work more frequently because of the fix-it station, and we have an increase in bike usage throughout the garden space. The staff and volunteer bike racks have seen an increase in use, and the staff bikes are utilized daily. And then Freedom Fitness, this is a gym that's located in Kuna. They purchased bike racks, lockers, and a storage shed to have people store bikes during the winter. This is a location, a business area that did not have any bike racks in the vicinity, and so that's now giving people, not just employees, but members as well, and people that are visiting other businesses, the opportunity to park their bikes there. The impact, not only have we had our members start riding their bikes, but we have had 3 of our employees start taking their bikes as well to our facility. And then the Downtown Boise Association, they purchased 2 employee bike share bikes, a trailer, locks and helmets, and they're using this not just for trips throughout the day for their staff, but to be able to deliver materials as part of their mission, as part of their business to businesses throughout the downtown area. And the director said that our small staff has transitioned from everyone having a parking pass before we received the grant to now only 20% of staff utilizing the pass. Bike share has directly attributed to this. And then Hummel Architects, they purchased annual transit passes, bike storage, bike tune-ups for their bike share bikes, locks and tools. And they said that the transit pass has allowed their employees to try the bus for the first time, and it's providing people with a new alternative to get to and from work. And we also did workshops with Hummel Architects. So as far as the evaluation, we talked about this a little bit. We did the follow-up survey. We have received 10 responses to date. We will put another email out there to see if we can get a few more. But 6 of those indicated that employees and customers are using smart transportation more often. The others indicated that they weren't sure. But all of the respondents provided positive feedback about the benefits of the grant program and the process and would recommend it moving forward. We will continue to have engagement with the grantees. We have invited them to participate in May in Motion and offering different opportunities for them to engage in commuter ride services moving forward. And then securing additional financial support. As I mentioned, we were able to secure support from the city of Boise. So 2022, just quickly, the application period opened up in April. We promoted this in a variety of ways to see how many businesses and organizations we could get to apply. We had 16 completed applications and have awarded 12 grants this round. We're expecting to spend about $25,000 to $30,000 for this round of the program. And the organizations that were awarded are listed here. Again, a diverse range of different businesses, different locations, and we're certainly excited to see where they go with their projects. We've had kickoff meetings with all of them and had check photos taken and are working with them now to make sure their projects are moving forward and on track. And they have different projects planned. I'd say the majority are looking at bike racks as well as bike fix-it stations and transit passes. So next steps, we will continue our follow-ups with the grantees for this round. We've asked that the invoices be submitted in August. This is a reimbursement-based program. We'll be conducting education and outreach activities with the organizations. And then we're invited to present at a conference coming up in August in Chicago on this program. So we're pretty excited about that. And then we'll continue, as I said, to seek program sponsors to keep the program moving forward in future years.
All right. Thank you so much. Really impressive presentation, and I really appreciate your ongoing engagement with the support and just kind of building on that as you go forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just, and to hear that it's growing organically, I think that's great. I think you've got some real milestones there to build on. So, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. Goldthorpe.
Actually, while you've been speaking, I've been kind of putting my salesman's or marketing hat on. It takes probably well, for lack of a better descriptive term, a generation to change people's, the way people do things. As I've seen who have adopted this, I've seen I see in my own mind a real benefit to ACHD, municipal entities, and schools if this were to be promoted and adopted or promoted and taught in at least the middle and high school level. I think that if we could, in some way, shape, or form, incentivize or inspire kids to do something that their parents haven't allowed them to do yet in their lives because they didn't think it was safe, that maybe we would be getting a whole lot more bang for our buck than getting a 5 or 10 employee business to set up a bike rack. And like I said, I haven't thought this thing all the way through, but I'm pretty sure that since principals are in charge of what happens in their schools, they're like a business owner, that perhaps we could make some hay here.
Absolutely.
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering?
just to build off of Commissioner Goldthorpe's point, there's a really big reason and a great push for why these types of opportunities work really well for businesses and other people that small businesses, because we spend a majority of our waking hours at work, and so we really can see some behavior change and an impact when we do actually work with workplaces. And I totally get what your point, you're looking more upstream, which I totally get. And I think that totally needs to be part of the conversation as well. But I just wanted to make a plug that worksite wellness, getting folks to take active transportation throughout their workday is a really key to success to getting more people out of their cars. So not apart from, but I think just again, why worksite grant opportunities like this are really helpful.
Any other great, Commissioner Hanson?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President, and Tessa thinks this is fantastic. It's related to the discussion we had earlier about our messaging and our role. Our job is managing a public asset the right of way, and you're about helping people understand through their businesses how to maximize the use of the right of way to the best extent possible for all the modes. And you've collected some really good information that's very helpful. I think this program, it will continue to collect some really good data about how a responsible public agency has to encourage people to use the right-of-way effectively and in all modes of transportation. So are you collecting data from those businesses that say, well, we can provide this. We're able to get like 3 more employees or 10 more employees to use the right-of-way in a much more sustainable way and to cycle or to use transit or commuter ride. But we can't do this for the other X number of employees because of X, Y, Z. These are the barriers, nothing to do with, we can only do so much. Do you take that information and say, because it's very possible one of our other departments in planning and engineering may help overcome those barriers. Do you provide that data back to to the planning department, to engineering, to help them understand, this program could really take off. We could help some of these businesses really envision maximizing the use of the right-of-way if these other barriers were not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've certainly worked with our partners in ACHD and also other organizations with this program, and then also just in general with the work that we do as Commuter Ride in promoting these options to businesses. I think there's probably more opportunity there, but certainly when it comes to collecting some of that data and where it would touch planning and projects, we would be, connecting with them on some of those opportunities.
I think that'd be tremendous. I mean, if we were able to identify some gaps that were common among some businesses, gaps in access to transit or some bike route that they would otherwise be using, it's like, oh, that's a piece of data that I know planning and projects can use, because that then helps to prioritize, let's fill those gaps because ahead of perhaps some others. So I think that's really critical information, and it helps to everybody to understand that it's our job to help people move around, because when they do, they can work, they spend money, it's a vibrant community, and as Commissioner Pickering points out, it's a healthier community. So thank you for doing this.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
Commissioner McKinney?
Madam President, thank you. Tessa, just 2 quick questions. The revenue amount that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, like $55,000, is that the entire amount of revenue, or excuse me, that entire amount is going toward the grants themselves? So that doesn't include any other expenses, et cetera. That's just the grant money itself. Am I correct on that?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, so $55,000 is going to the grants. Some of that went to some of the educational opportunities that we offered, but the majority of that has gone to the grant project.
Okay, so it's the grants and the outreach programs.
Yes.
It doesn't cover anything like administrative expenses or overhead or anything like that. That's all covered by ACHD. Correct? Okay, all right. Let me just ask you then, one kind of final thought I had in mind as we're talking about this. Do we have good data, and I know this isn't your specific area, but maybe you know about what we have, good data on changes in commuting trends post-COVID? In other words, you know, I know a lot of people, you know, with starting with the COVID situation, started telecommuting and so on, a lot of distance working. Do we have any ideas of how that's playing out, permanent changes that we tend to see or trends that we tend to see?
So we do have some data, and actually a survey was recently completed with downtown Boise and looking at travel trends. I don't have that data with me, but we could certainly follow up with our partners that conducted that survey to provide an update on that.
Okay.
We have other sources of data looking at the census numbers, the community survey that's conducted, and looking at the trends that we've seen there. And certainly there was an increase in work from home when we look back to pre-pandemic to today, or the data from 2020. But we'd be happy to compile any data that we can provide for you and provide an update on that at a later time.
Yeah, great. And whether in association with this program or others, I think that would be good information for us to see and discuss, because it affects everything we do. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good idea. Thank you. All right, our next item, salary survey and personnel budget update. Sherry.
Well, Commissioners, good afternoon. And this work session is going to be a little different. We're going to cover 4 areas for you. We're going to cover our most recent salary survey that focused on our competitiveness and parity with the public and private sectors. We're going to talk a little bit about the ACHD 2022 healthcare costs. We're going to talk about the 2022 COLA considerations to mitigate inflation. And we're going to talk about the 2022 ACHD staffing considerations, 2023 across the board. What this is not, though, are specific recommendations as those will be in front of you on 13 July during your first major budget line-by-line workshop, but an overview of where we are and what we're thinking today. As a reminder, your final decisions on the FY 23-24 budget will be on 24 August coming up. So first, Sherry will share the results of the salary survey you approved regarding ACHD's ability to be competitive with the private and public sectors. The key initiative is specifically targeted to bring ACHD to parity with our competitors while enhancing recruiting opportunities and strategies. So Sherry, over to you.
President May, Commissioners, thank you. Just to kind of recap a little bit and how we got here, our last full salary survey was done in 2017. And we also did a shift in our structure at that time. Since then, obviously, there have been some pretty historic shifts in the economy. We've had COVID, we have inflation numbers and of course, labor market changes. As we all know, we've made significant changes and enhancements in our benefits, which has been great in the effort to attract and retain employees. But it's also critical to remember that salary is still a key component, and that was part of what we were looking at from the salary survey. As we reported to you earlier, we contracted with Milliman to conduct a custom salary survey. Milliman is a professional organization who specializes in compensation surveys. They provide expertise and compensation guidance to employers of all sizes, including the state of Idaho. In the prior surveys, we have typically looked at both local and regional numbers and comparing to public sector employers. But in today's market, we recognize there's a limited labor market, and we are competing with the private sector for the same employees. And so as we went out for this salary survey, we asked that the private sector also be incorporated into those salary numbers. We also asked Milliman to look at both our non-exempt as well as our exempt benchmarked positions. We also asked them to evaluate our current salary structure and really kind of take a look at our overall competitiveness. Again, including both public and private employers. We do have the salary survey results. We were not surprised to see that over 90% of our benchmark positions were below the market and outside of what we would consider to be competitive. It is important to point out that we're still reviewing the data. So what I'm reporting to you today is an overview of what we have initially seen. So we don't have all of the final numbers at this time. But when we look at those benchmark positions, it's estimated that our positions are on average below the market by 13%.
Is this public or private?
That's the salary survey combined, both public and private. That's very important to point out. This is not about individual salaries. This is about our salary structure as a whole. So we're not looking at those individual salaries at this time. So again, 13% overall is what we estimate that we are below the market. A couple highlights that we want to kind of look at from a big picture perspective. One of the recommendations will be to combine our exempt and non-exempt pay structures into one structure instead of two. One of the things that this will provide for us as an organization is more flexibility in the overall classifications of positions and where they fall in the market. And this is especially important as we look at job families where we have multiple positions that fall in succession. So for example, you may have a general equipment operator, a senior equipment operator, a lead worker, and that would be something that we would refer to as a job family, and they all fall in succession. Again, combining into one structure will give us more flexibility. The other thing that we are looking at, and this is part of our review right now, is not only are we looking at the structure change, but we're also looking at some potential shifts of positions within the structure based on what the market told us. And so as we look at some of those positions, we're seeing that the recommendations that are coming in our new structure are showing that we would be more competitive in those specific positions. For example, when we look at our general equipment operators and some of our positions in maintenance, we've really struggled to fill those positions, part in due to labor shortage issues, but also part in due to salaries. When we go back and look at what may be recommended as a part of the new structure and compare that with salaries in the market today, we do find ourselves to be more competitive if we implement those recommendations. Now, we will come back to you with more specifics on those recommendations, but currently when we look at the overall structure change and the shifts in our ranges, which would include new start rates in the structure, we would anticipate that the implementation costs will be about $811,000 to implement that. So with that, I will stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Sherry.
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. Goldthorpe.
Thank you. In the almost 8 years I've been here, I can't think of a better person to be in your job than you.
Thank you.
You have brought to us on so many occasions good information. good reasons, and it's always been with a lot of enthusiasm that I have supported whatever you've asked for, and that'll continue. I assume or anticipate that if there is a shift like this to make ACHD more competitive in terms of wages, that there'll be some pushback, and it'll be purely political. We've seen that before when we presented our budget publicly. And so in order to get ahead of some of that pushback, and I know where it'll come from, I would ask those people to take a look at their political party platform, where they will see a plank that says that the public sector should be compensated equal to the private sector. And with that, that's where I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or Commissioner McKinney?
Yes, Madam President. Sherry, just one quick question. You talked a moment ago about the difference between salary structure as a whole versus individual salaries. And I want to make sure I understand clearly what we mean when we say that. If you can, I don't know if you can give like a generic example that helps illustrate what you're talking about.
Sure. So when we look at our salary structure as a whole, we looked at the midpoint of our salary structure. So for example, if we have a pay grade 5, for example, we would look at what is the exact midpoint. That has nothing to do with anyone's individual salary. It's just what is the midpoint for that salary range. And we compared that with the 50th percentile in the salary survey information. And that's how you gauge where your competitiveness is. So it's not about where individuals fall within that range. It's just in relation to our start rates, our maximums, and that midpoint.
Okay, so we're not, for example, comparing salary range for a particular job versus salary range for that particular job out in the private sector or at other public agencies. Are we going job to job?
Yes, we are. That's what the benchmarked positions are. So, okay. For example, if we're looking at a general equipment operator, the consultant Milliman would go out and search other comparable positions in both the private and public sector. They would look at the salary ranges for those positions and what is the 50th percentile in looking at that salary range. And they would compare the market's 50th percentile with our midpoint.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I just wanted to make sure I was clear on what you were saying on that. So great. That's very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Thank you. Sherry, thank you for this preview and overview before we get the deeper numbers. But I was just wondering, what was the regional boundary that the consultant looked at all these comparables with the private and public sector and compared us to?
That's a great question. So different salary surveys cover different regions. Primarily, it's the Northwest area, but there were some salaries or some surveys that fell outside of that area. And one of the things that they do, and this is why they're the professionals, is they will apply a ratio. For example, if it's in an area, take Seattle, for example, which obviously has a very different cost of living than then they would make an adjustment based on that geographic area that would make it comparable to what we have here locally. But for the most part, it was in the Northwest.
Thank you. And then just to clarify that you will come back with the averages for, I think it would just be helpful having averages of where we're at with specific job descriptions. It would be helpful to know which areas or job families, as you've described, are low, like we have a harder time, we're not as competitive in those sections. So that's going to be shared with us at a later time, correct?
So we'll be coming back with specifics for our structure as a whole and where those positions fall. And then if we implement the recommended structure, what impact that will have on employees' actual salaries.
Okay, that's great. So I think I'm just personally really curious where those different variables are within our structure and how, as you've described, what is this new, how is this new structure going to remedy some of those discrepancies with the salary ranges? So thank you. Looking forward to that.
You bet.
Thank you, Madam
Right,
Madam
Commissioner
President.
Hanson?
Thank you, Sherry. That's tremendous. I'm very intrigued to find, because the analysis of exempt versus non-exempt and moving those together. And am I correct in saying that's basically the difference between the hourly and the salaried, which then of course has a whole lot of things. So whether it looks more like we're analyzing former salaried positions as hourly positions, or more like we're looking at formerly hourly positions as salaried positions, which is real important, because it's really hard to, when you have those two different categories. So that's fascinating for me to see. And I know in this market, I think Commissioner Pickering was getting at it, because this particular market has the highest, amongst the highest, perhaps the highest housing market, the hottest housing market in the country, how that has driven the analysis, even comparing it to places on the West Coast or other parts of the Northwest. The Treasure Valley's housing costs are enormous, and that's had a huge strain on the salary levels. It's been harder for our employees or people wanting to work here to be able to make the numbers match.
Okay.
So I'm intrigued to hear that, and I hope we have enough time to really dig deep into what that means in terms of how it's analyzed.
Okay, we can do that.
All right, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Sherry. We'll look forward to getting that data. Thank you. Director Wong.
Thank you, Commissioners, and just as a follow-up, we'll be back on the 20th, correct, for the Commissioner Pickering, for that information that you requested of the board. Paul, if you could hand out the COLA handouts, and I have already emailed these to Commissioner Pickering. All right, let's see them. Come on. Anyway,
Something you said, Bruce, had to make him smile. So I was like, oh, okay. Who knew that salary conversations made a 6-week-old baby smile?
Commissioners, for COLA considerations, I want to say first thank you. I want to say thank you for advancing the 1% to the team, as this has already made a very positive impact across the board. So again, thank you so very, very much. As you recall from my previous updates, ACHD, like the rest of the nation in Idaho, continue to struggle under the growing impacts of inflation. For example, as shared with you before, the Mountain West CPI is 9.4%. Unleaded gas is up to 52.6%. Diesel up 72.1%. I found this to be very interesting that the Idaho homeowners insurance premiums for 2022 are up 34%, while nationally they're up 2%.
Madam President,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Idaho's homeowners insurance premium started at the least expensive in the nation. So apparently something's happened to cause that to adjust itself.
Commissioners, with this in mind, we have calculated the annual financial costs associated with a range of COLA considerations to address and mitigate continued inflation challenges. We will also be including a line item specifically for the Commission when it comes down to COLA considerations. As with the salary adjustment, we will make our formal recommendations to you on 13 July during the budget workshop. For your consideration, as both the salary survey and COLA recommendations are critical in addressing both competitive parity and inflation challenges, you might consider, if you wish to go down this path, implementing a COLA adjustment first, and then the salary survey competitive parity adjustments after the COLA adjustment. As we believe, doing the math, we arrive at the same conclusion at the end of the day, but it actually saves ACHD about $500,000 and such. So it's just something for your consideration that we will raise again on the 13th. As a reminder, the following COLA announcements have already been made by other government agencies, and they are: Boise has determined a 5.9% market adjustment and a COLA to be determined later this month. Garden City is doing a 6% COLA. Blaine County, 9% COLA. Idaho Falls, 4 to 5% COLA. Meridian, they've approved an immediate 8.3% COLA, and they are doing another salary survey as we've done, and have already budgeted $1.2 million to fund the implementation of their salary survey. Napa is proposing a 2% COLA, but will complement it with a $2 per hour raise for all employees. Ada County is still determining what they're going to do. Commissioners, you have that information in front of you. A few weeks back, Commissioner Goldthorpe asked as to why we will be seeing our first health care premium increase in over 5 years. Paul, if you'd hand that chart out, please. And again, Commissioner Pickering, that'll be the bar chart for hospital costs.
Thanks.
As you all know, ACHD has enjoyed a net zero increase in healthcare costs for the last 4 years. And that's strictly due to, of course, Sherry Knaus and her team on wellness programs, health fairs, and of course our focus on safety. And as I reminded you today, we've had 0 accidents or injuries for the last month. As such, the industry average increase per year was 7.5%, for a cumulative increase of 37.5% since 2016. And as you know, ACHD did well and will continue to do well. So why are we seeing a projected increase in ACH healthcare premiums for FY23? Well, Commissioners, there are 2 main reasons, and I'll discuss them both. First, and that is consistently increasing industry expenses. You have the handout in front of you. With over 80 million cases, nearly 1 million deaths, and over 4.6 million hospitalizations, the pandemic has taken a significant toll on hospitals and health systems and placed enormous strains on the nation's healthcare workers. When coupled with rising inflation and growth in input prices, these expense increases have been severely detrimental to hospital finances, leading to billions in losses and over 33% of hospitals operating in negative margins. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, hospital employment is down approximately 100,000 from pre-pandemic levels. At the same time, hospital labor expenses per patient, through 2021 were 19.1% higher than pre-pandemic levels in 2019. Labor costs account for more than 50% of hospitals' total expenses. Therefore, even a slight increase in the cost of labor can be very detrimental to healthcare premiums. During driving the growth in labor expenses, and this is very interesting, did not know this, has been, and I'm sure Commissioner Pickering is well aware of everything I'm saying right now, has been an increased reliance on contract staff, and especially contract nurses, who are integral members of the clinical team. In 2019, hospitals spent a median of 4.7% of their total nurse labor expenses on contract travel nurses, which skyrocketed to a median of 38.6% in January 2022. Contract staff agencies have increased the rates they bill hospitals significantly. In fact, hourly billing rates that hospitals pay staffing firms for contract employees increased 213% compared to pre-pandemic levels. Drug expenses, as you can see from the handout, have increased dramatically, 9% on per patient basis compared to pre-pandemic levels. Medical supply expenses grew 20.6% through the end of 2021 compared to pre-pandemic levels. Combined, Commissioners, health plan cost forecasts point to more than $13,000 per employee in 2022, based on a survey of the healthcare costs and benefits design of more than 700 large U.S. employers, and taking plan design changes and vendor negotiations into account. That's part 1. Part 2, in late 2021 and into 2022, ACHD team members are now making up for their lost COVID access opportunities, COVID restrictions, hospital appointments availability, and quite frankly, fear. And we are now dealing with, so there's more people taking advantage of this. And we're now dealing, and I won't go into specifics, of multiple severe long-term health challenges for team members and families. So as a result, you can see, we will see a 10% increase in ACHD's premiums, which is really great news, as the initial projections were over 17% of an increase. As you recall, the commission has initially addressed this added burden to all CHD team members and especially families, by proactively lowering their premium, their current premium costs. Again, thank you for doing that. Our recommendation will be addressed in our 13 July FY23 capital and administrative budget presentation to you. Again, just overviewing the landscape right now. For FY23 staffing requests, Paul, if you'd, we'd hand those out. I'm sorry, Paul will show you what the increases are now per individual.
You're getting good at this.
So as you can see, commissioners, our staff has done the homework. Those are the projected increases in premiums per category and such going forward. So, Paul, so I don't screw this one up, will you please hand out the next handout for the commission, and that will be staffing. Commissioners, for FY23 staffing requests, we will be suggesting a different approach that balances needs and current economic conditions. In the past, we've recommended a specific number of staffing billets for your consideration. For FY23, we will be recommending a phased approach that targets the initial budget approval on 24 August, but also leverages the first and second budget adjustment recommendations as phased staffing decisions will be made based on current economic conditions. For example, currently we are assessing 24 staff recommendations into 23, with 8 of those directly tied to fee increase schedules. The fee schedule is a no cost to the taxpayer, as it's paid completely by fees for those doing business with the district, and we will recommend you immediately approve those on 24 August. This leaves 16 of those left, and of those 16, we will recommend adding 4 to the 23 August budget approval proposals, but hold off on the remaining staff requests until the first and second budget adjustment decisions, again, based on current economic and employment considerations. We believe that this is a more realistic approach to ACHD staffing, and this does not obligate ACHD to budget for staffing positions that, in real time, may not be required. Moreover, we believe that this approach balances known staff requirements with real-time economic considerations for the Commission. In summary, on 13 July, we will provide you with your recommendations on instituting the salary survey results, recommendations on addressing ACHD's healthcare FY23 coverage, recommendations on COLA consideration, and provide you with specific staffing recommendations that balance needs and current economic environment, or the current economic environment. So, commissioners, that is our overview for you. We'll be back next week with specifics, and as I said earlier, Sherry will be back to you on the 20th when it comes down to specifics for the salary survey, and the 3 of us are here to answer any overarching questions that you might have right now.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions or concerns?
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one quick question. I'll have more next week and the following week, but when it comes to the fee structures, like you described, Director Wong, are there any state statutes that we have to abide by with fee structures, or all of them, I mean, really just in our wheelhouse and we have the ability to raise those?
I'll introduce the lawyer.
Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner Pickering, there is no fee table in the state law, but there is a limitation. ACHD can only charge a fee to recover actual costs. And one thing to add to that is that we're doing a fee study right now, looking across the board. We don't feel like we've been pretty conservative on our fees in the past, and this is really the genesis starts with the small cell because the federal statute limits us as to our actual costs. So when that fee study's done, we're going to be looking at all of ACHD's fees and making sure that we're capturing all those costs, and we'll come back to the commission, the findings of that. The city of Casper recently did this, and the city of Boise is currently also examining that. But again, the limitation is that we can only charge a fee to justify what our actual costs are. So we're taking a hard look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, and Sherry, here's a piece of data I was going to ask you about, and I know I've asked it in the past. It's really helpful to do an analysis over time about the gap between the highest paid and the lowest paid full-time employees, and to then analyze whether that's growing, shrinking, or staying the same. So if you could provide that, that would be really helpful, because it's helpful to then project back, whether we're going in the right direction or the wrong direction or whatever so just the analysis of the percentages between the highest paid and lowest paid full-time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you all very much. Mr. Daigle, Director Wong, Sherry, always, thank you very much. All right, with that, commissioners, we will retire to the back room for an executive session.